Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we smash apart the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute chunks so we can analyze them in scrupulous detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Road to Infinity podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. Did you know that there are planes that are almost 70 years old still flying today?
Really?
Yeah. Cessna's 180 Skywagon, which was like the station wagon of consumer aircraft, like a 4 to 6 seater.
Okay.
Those were introduced in 1953. Some of them are still flying today.
Wow. Because when you get it right.
And it works.
That's right.
And you don't have to mess around with it. And you're saying to yourself, okay, whoa, what does this have to do? Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that.
So, yeah, because we're here to talk about minute 15 of Louis Leterrier's 2008 film, The Incredible Hulk. And we start off from that amazing hero shot of Mr. Tim Roth. So let's talk about Tim Roth for a minute. So Tim Roth, I would say his first big pop was probably Reservoir Dogs with Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. I would think he'd done some stuff before that, but I think that was
that got him noticed. No, he got noticed
because he was Mr. White and he was the major star of that. Even though you wouldn't know it by looking at the poster, everything.
Sure.
So he's went on to work with Quentin a bunch of times since then, and even still, he was just in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and got cut out. So maybe in the 4-hour version of it, he'll be put back in.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, because he actually shot a bunch of stuff for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was also in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is one of my favorite cult sort of classics about the two characters from Hamlet, his two best friends who die across the way. Like Tom Stoppard wrote a whole play about them and their adventures, and so they made a movie of that with him and Gary Oldman. So if you're a fan of Tim Roth and Gary Oldman, I'd say watch the movie. The movie is not amazingly wonderfully fantastic because the tone sort of goes all over the place, but it's especially if you're a Shakespeare nerd, it's super funny.
He is one of the few everyman English actors.
It's true,
because English actors,
right? He's not like super handsome.
Yeah,
but he's also not like ugly.
No.
He's just like a regular bloke.
You expect every English actor to sort of always be the James Bond sort of Colin Firth, sort of like that character. You don't expect any of them to play just like, the dude who's like does this job, right?
Yeah.
Tim Roth totally is that actor.
Yeah.
And he's reliable and he's always hitting his mark and he's doing what you want him to do.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that shows up in a movie and is great. The movie might be but like he always is exactly right on. He has his character down. You're going to get a solid performance every time he shows up.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go into a big love letter to Tim Roth.
I think Tim Roth deserves a big love letter. He's like a hard-working actor. He's like every time he shows up, he's putting in his time.
Well, and he
paid his dues.
Certainly, already you can tell as he's coming off the helicopter. Again, we talked about stature and everything.
Mm-hmm.
This I think helped to break the mold of what you expect the main villain to be, or could be in future movies.
Right, especially for a Hulk villain.
Yes.
Tim Roth steps off the plane and he's 5'7".
Yeah.
And he's, in his 40s.
Yeah.
And I think that in the movie he's supposed to be like 38, 39, something around those lines.
Still not.
Exactly.
Not spring chicken.
You step off and I pulled you an ace and he steps off and you kind of go, okay. This is
really
that guy? Really? Okay. All right. So he's playing Emil Blonsky. It reminded me of the old days of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where they would always have to find a way to justify his accent. Yes, he's originally from Austria, but then grew up in Hawaii. They just found all these weird ways of justifying. And then after a while, they just went, eh. So in this, they found a way to say why is an English guy? They're like, see, he was born in Russia. He's on loan from British SAS, so he's a special ops from England. That he's coming into the thing. So it was nice because originally Emil Blonsky was actually a spy. He was a spy from Russia, the evil empire, but he was actually supposedly born in Yugoslavia. He appeared in Tales to Astonish number 90 in April of 1967. He's a character from Gil Kane and Stan Lee. This is what I love about Stan Lee's storytelling back in this time. He didn't wait for anything. He was just we got to get going. We got to go. Right. So in one page, he's revealed as a spy and transforms into the Abomination. In 5 panels. By the end of that one page, he's full on Abomination.
That's awesome.
Wow, they just didn't wait around at all. Bruce Banner had stuck into a military base to do an experiment to try and get the Hulk, to cure the Hulk, and they found him before he could do it. Blonsky stepped in, I don't know what he was doing, but I bet I could do the same thing, and basically steps in the machine.
Press the button.
He literally presses the button and becomes the Abomination. It's just that fast.
Well, now this, not getting ahead of us, but that that's the story that you will see played out in a much more character-driven
Right. They find
narrative.
a much different motivation for Blonsky and why he would do something like that. Yeah, I know you cashed in some chips for this. I think that's an interesting line, too, because apparently these generals know each other enough, how important this mission is. And I would assume that means he's been briefed on the Hulk, that he knows how serious of a mission this is, because this is the guy who assembled this team for Ross.
Okay, and a really interesting dialogue exchange here, because, I know you cashed in some chips for this, and then his response is, glad I could help, just make it good.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like what do you mean, just make it? Is that a phrase that I'm not familiar with military speak? Because that's not what you'd say. You'd say, no, find the guy. Yeah, okay, well, accomplish the mission. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Make it good.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, that implies a lot of stuff, make it look good.
Yeah. Is there a way to make it bad?
Are we trying... Well, okay, this made me wonder, was there another plan here?
Oh.
Are we bringing in this guy because we're trying to not just capture someone, we're trying to trigger something?
Oh, okay.
I'm reading too much into this, aren't I?
It could be, but that's what our job is, right?
But I did think that line was just, you wouldn't write that unless someone said, hey, you've got to say this. That's not a line that naturally would come out of that scene, so anyway.
True. So all of our troops, our new commando squad, our proto Hulkbusters, if you will, hop aboard a plane. This is a Lockheed CC-130H Hercules. This is actually another plane that's actually on loan to them from Canadian Air Force. They took it and redressed it. So they put USAF stuff all on the sides and everything too, and then obviously probably took it off quite as quickly when they landed and brought it back on.
What is amazing to me is the C-130 introduced in December of 1956.
Wow. And still
and when was it taken out of service?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It's still in service. Now that does not mean there have been, this is an H model, 130H.
Yeah.
There have been a variance, there's at least been almost a dozen variants of this.
Right.
However, wow, there is something to be said for aircraft designed in the 50s.
Yeah.
This is, we're coming out of World War II. The military is trying to understand what they got to do. Okay, there's some really good thinking here that you're still flying these literally almost 70 years later.
Yeah, that's true. That's something you said for American ingenuity in the 50s.
Shout out to the designers of the C-130.
So we see the Lockheed taking off into stormy skies. It was clear just a minute ago. But
foreshadowing.
Okay. I know, right?
That happens several times in this movie.
Oh, yeah?
We'll get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we see them get their packing brief. It's like really these black ops packing brief. They open it up and they see over Emil's shoulder as he's flipping through them. We get to see the picture of the, and it looks like the picture comes straight from Bruce's medical ID, his badge when he worked at the laboratory. Major Spar is the one giving all these things, and she has a great line that I actually went through and turned on the subtitles so I could get it. And she says, "Snatch and grab, live capture. You'll have your dart clips and suppression ordnance, but live fires for backup only." And she rattles this stuff off. I mean, she nails this line over too. But I like that. So we're already seeing the thing is not kill, it's bring him back.
Right.
It's everything that had like dart clips. So we're doing tranquilizer darts, suppression ordnance, so rubber bullets essentially. Live fire backup only. So basically don't shoot him. If everything goes straight to hell, then yeah, maybe.
Right.
But even so, as we'll find out, bullets aren't going to do a whole lot anyways. Then as Blonsky's looking over this, he's the ace, he's the manhunter, he's the sort of the X factor in this one. He says a very simple question: is he a fighter? While Ross answers, he doesn't really answer the question. So he says he's still secret. So I'm like, oh, okay, so you assume he's an analyst. He's we've seen a lot of whistleblowers. But then he says, he's been implicated in the deaths of 2 scientists, a military officer, an Idaho state trooper, and 2 Canadian hunters. Okay, let's break down that list a little bit here. So 2 scientists. All right, so when he hulked out the first time, he probably smashed through walls, and probably scientists died. I think we even see some people on the ground. We see that they died from their injuries. And that.
Right.
Okay. Military officer. Well, that's probably our friend Scott Murphy from the first thing that we see firing at the Hulk. First person to fire a gun at the Hulk. Looks like he didn't make it out of there. An Idaho state trooper. What? When did the Hulk go to Idaho? How did... So I assume there's a short film that I want to see. Bruce Banner has stolen a car, or let's give the benefit of the doubt. He had some money. He bought a car. Like, he gets pulled over by an Idaho State Trooper. Idaho State Trooper gets, like, figures out who he is, or that all of a sudden it escalates, and then he hulks out and kills the state trooper. Like, what happened there? And then from Idaho, apparently, he went to Canada. Because then...
Well, that makes sense.
2 Canadian hunters, like, all these people are dead. They're dead. Not injured. He says dead. Implicated in the deaths of. Now, it could have been somebody got scared and ran off a cliff and died, and so he's implicated in the death. He didn't actually murder them. So it wasn't like the Hulk is not snapping necks.
Even Ross, you're saying it's different from saying implicated in the deaths to
yes.
he murdered 6 people.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't murder 6 people.
Right. So it could be like because of the explosion in the lab, then the scientist died. So it wasn't the Hulk stepping on them or punching them. It could have just been the explosion caused it. So therefore implicated in the death of.
But I do love
what happened to that state trooper. That's I'm gonna be on this for the rest of the.
I would
movie.
love.
What happened to that poor state trooper in Idaho?
We'll have to come up with a hypothesis on that.
The Canadian Hunters, I think, is a nice homage. I think that probably is a nice nod because when the Hulk was in Canada, is the first time he met Wolverine, because Wolverine's first appearance was in Canada in the woods fighting the Hulk. That was the first time our friend Logan ever appeared in a comic book page, was fighting the Hulk in Canada.
But I do love the whole way this sets up in literally 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Emil's sort of like, well, this guy doesn't look any different from me. Like, like, what am I supposed to be afraid of here?
Right.
What's the? Why did you bring me here?
Yeah, exactly.
What is going to be the problem?
I look around at these serious, door kickers and go, well, why for this guy?
So you can see he lights Ross up a little bit. Like as soon as Ross turns around and is like, hey, hold on a second.
Yeah. Don't underestimate it.
Yeah, don't underestimate it because, and the Stole Secrets line I think is kind of funny. Like, okay, sure. But it's like, he's killed 6 people. And again, didn't say that.
Yeah.
You would think there's a reason he doesn't say that.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to convince someone, say, yeah, he killed 6 people.
Yeah.
No.
You approach the situation differently if he's a multiple murderer.
Exactly.
Than if he's implicated in the deaths of. Yeah. As Ross is continuing his diatribe about this, then he comes out and says, trank him and what? Trank him and what? And kick him when he's down? Like what? Trank him and
haul him, put him in a bag?
And dress him in his Sunday best and bring him home? Like what? We don't know. We won't find out until minute 16.
Oh.
That's right. Another cliffhanger.
Jeez.
What happens when you trank him? We don't know. Right. So you'll have to tune in and listen to minute 16 to find out what happens to the end of that sentence. In the meantime, if you want to know what we're up to, what we're doing, what we're about, what we feel about things, you can follow us on all the social media things. We're on the Instagram, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Facebook. You search for The Next Reel, and you'll find us on all those places. Hope you had a smashing good time. Thanks for listening. Until next time, true believers.
Bye.